Okay, we got 5 o'clock and start the work session. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there is generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings. 2 topics on the work session. First is the Board of Property Tax Appeals applications. We have 5 minutes dedicated to this on page 3, and then we also have the proposal to modify ambulance coverage requirements. That's on page 8 of the agenda. And I think we also would like to reserve a little time to talk about the proclamation for our next regular meeting on the. We'll start, though, first with the Board of Property Tax Appeals applications and our county clerk. I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Today we're just going to go over the applications that I received for the Board of Property Tax Appeals for the 22-23 fiscal year. This year, the applications went out on August 1st, and the deadline to submit the application was September 13th. Prior to that, I had asked the previous gentleman that served last year if they were wanting to apply again. 2 did, and their applications are attached. 1 decided not to this year. And Commissioner Toyooka was designated to serve as the office holding board member at the January 27th, 2021 work session during the liaison appointment. So he will continue to serve as a appointed body office holding. So I did not include his application because he's automatically there. But the 2 applicants this year are Greg Friedman of Cannon Beach and David Ozer of Astoria. They have both done it before, and they do a good job. I wish I would have had more applications, but it is what it is, and we'll make do. So
Well, great.
This is a time for you to, if you have any questions about the applicants, to answer.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Tracy Kavinko, our county clerk, and thank you, Commissioner Toyooka, for agreeing to be our POPTA. And I'm glad that David Ozer and Greg Friedman both have applied. Both really good people to have on. So, any questions, discussion?
One comment, just, having served last year during the session, Greg Friedman and David Ozer are both eminently knowledgeable, qualified, and just very precise in how they review everything. So we're very fortunate to have those 2 gentlemen on the board, and hopefully we can, I don't know if time would permit, but hopefully we can find someone else before the next
year.
Next year.
These have to be appointed by October 15th of each year.
Oh. Okay.
So I'll be back in a couple weeks with the actual
Maybe
appointment.
in the next few weeks, so I don't have to, no, I'm kidding. No, it's wonderful to sit in, but, whatever part I can play, I'm very willing and fortunate to be there.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Thompson, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you.
Suzanne Johnson, did you have anything you wanted to add? Nope. Okay, any other discussion? Thank you, Tracy, appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
We'll move on to our next item, which is the proposal to modify ambulance coverage requirements on page 8 of our agenda. We've got 15 minutes assigned to this. I'll turn it over to County Manager Don Boone.
Chair Quayla, members of the board, Tiffany Brown is on camera, and she'll give a quick staff overview. And then we have a number of different interested stakeholders joining us for this conversation also. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Tiffany.
Thank you so much. This was a really bulky agenda packet, and I put together about a 7-slide presentation to kind of walk through the talking points. Would you like me to share screen, or would you like me to just go through and talk about it?
If you could share the screen, I think that'd be great.
Okay. I think it's disabled.
Oh.
It should allow you to share your screen.
I get a message that says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, just a moment. Try now.
Great. Is my screen visible?
Yep, we can see it.
Wonderful. Commissioners, Chair Quila, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you tonight about a proposal from Medics to temporarily modify ambulance coverage requirements regarding the ambulance franchise agreement. A little background and overview for this issue. The pandemic created long and short-term impacts to the EMS industry, and paramedic shortages currently exist nationwide due to a lack of training opportunities during the pandemic. For 2 full years, routine training that occurs in our country was put on hold, and we rely on it to constantly feed the industry, and that didn't happen. Medics has been impacted by the issue, resulting in delayed call times. And at the August meeting, the ASAA committee heard a recommendation by Medics to mitigate the coverage issue until such a time that they believe it will remedy itself. I've pulled a few sections from the plan and the agreement tonight to sort of highlight the issue. We're talking about 2 separate documents. The franchise agreement that we've entered into with Medics that states that they will follow applicable state, federal, local laws and stay in accordance with our ambulance service plan. The requirements outline that they staff ambulances 24 hours a day with a paramedic. And that all calls are triaged as requiring an emergency response, but every ambulance will have a paramedic on it. There are zone requirements, and Medics agrees to have 2 ambulances in the core area and 3 ambulances in the service area at all times. These are the current conditions and coverage requirements expected of Medics as part of the plan and the franchise agreement. As we move into the ASA plan, which informs the franchise agreement, we see that the level of care is defined by our plan as requiring that every ambulance have a paramedic on board. Paramedics are the very position that we're experiencing a shortage with. I wanted to just show these 2 quarterly reports. Part of the ambulance service role is to review quarterly reports from Medics, and this is the very quarter where we saw the call times reduce. The 3rd quarter of 21, Medics is required to report maintain 90% or above, and it was the very next quarter, the 4th quarter of 2021, that we saw those begin to drop below 90%, and they would continue to right up until the most recent quarter that we have received a report for. The plan requires that the Medics notify the board if for any reasons they are not able to fulfill the requirements of the plan or the franchise agreement, and that's why we're here tonight. At the August ASA meeting, Medics proposed efforts to mitigate the problem until they feel that it will start to rectify itself. They've already started to see improvement in this area. And here's what the proposal entails: that there is flexibility to staff ambulances with advanced EMTs, intermediate EMTs, and paramedics. The ability to respond using a BLS ambulance, that is an ambulance not staffed by a paramedic, for assessment that would go out ahead of time and not necessarily tie up, but rather serve as a method of triaging in advance. The proposal includes that ambulance, which does not have a paramedic on it, will be an additional ambulance to the coverage area, thus exceeding the requirements in terms of how many units we have on the ground. And finally, the committee agreed to revisit this proposal in 6 months to better understand where the problem was. At that time, to revert to the original requirements or address the board again to explain the problem further. The next steps will be to consider the decision tonight. We have Fire Defense Board Chief Dan Crutchfield on the line. We have the fire representative for the ASA, Chief Mark Reckman, on the line, and Tom Strecker with Medics to answer any industry-specific questions you may have that I'm unable to. The thing we'll have to do next is work with County Council to determine which process instrument we use to make the changes, and then return to a regular meeting for approval if that's the direction we're headed. That's the end of my distillation of your large board packet, and I'll open it up now to questions for myself or those we have present.
Thank you very much, Emergency Manager Brown. I see that Courtney Bangs, or Commissioner Courtney Bangs, has a question.
Just for clarification purposes, so what are the limitations of each of those titles? EMT, I think it was IEMT, and paramedic.
I see Tom Strecker's there in the meeting. Great.
Yeah, Tom Becker, General Manager at Medics. I'd be happy to answer that. Each level of EMT has a different set of, a scope of practice is what it's called. And the vast majority of calls that are advanced life support calls are run at around the EMT intermediate level. Paramedics do extreme measures beyond that, decompression of chests, intubation for patients not breathing, things that don't happen frequently. The vast majority of our calls are run at the intermediate level. So that's why I think we could actually quite safely run emergency response calls with the intermediate level EMTs.
Commissioner Banks?
So during these staffing hours, are we saying that there would be no paramedic on for a certain set of time, or is it just a limited opportunity of maybe like one paramedic on for a 24-hour period versus a paramedic in each ambulance?
No, we would still stay, the franchise agreement calls for us to have the 2 ambulances in the county at all times and 3 in our system, and those would all be paramedic staffed. These would be additional ambulances added to the system to help take the pressure off of the system.
Okay, can I continue?
Commissioner Banks, yeah.
So in regards to I can't remember the title of the ambulance that you gave for the triage ambulance, the one that basically makes first contact. I know a lot of our rural districts have that type of, so this is in addition to our rural fire districts and what they provide?
Basically what we would do is our dispatch center uses a triage technique when they take the 911 call. And they determine whether the call falls in a certain category. It's an alpha through echo system to where alpha and bravo level calls are low level calls that don't require a paramedic level. Those would be the ones that we would send the basic life support unit to initially, and then if they got on scene and determined that it actually did require an advanced life support ambulance, then they would call for that to come to the scene. They wouldn't be sent on an ALS level call initially, unless they were, just happened to be the closest ambulance and they went in addition to an ALS ambulance.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from the commission? Commissioner Toyoka?
Did we have any input from fire departments or hospitals as far as the effectiveness and any assistance in terms of training, or how do we get you back up to?
Well, I mean, we currently have multiple of our EMTs in paramedic school. The Medics is paying for that 100%. We're also doing the same for EMTs, where we're hiring non-trained people, working them in non-medical roles while we train them to become EMTs. It's not a fast repair, and we're also doing everything we can to bring people in from the outside. But we do believe that the eventual long-term fix to this problem is to grow our own people locally, have a vested interest in our community, and don't want to come here just for a little while and then leave.
valuable service, that our small rural county really depends on. So
Right,
that long-term, planning is really essential.
yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Taliaferro. Thank you, Tom. We have a number of folks that have joined us. And anybody online would like to add to this discussion?
Commissioners, my name is Dan Crutchfield, and I'm the fire chief for the city of Astoria, and I have been elected as the Clatsop County Fire Defense Board chief, representing the fire chiefs. And we have a lot of faith in Tom's plan, and we believe that it's a good direction to move. And we feel that adding that capacity to the system of having those extra ambulances will definitely alleviate some of the response times. The downside for some of the fire departments is, it's a tiered response. So a lot of times the fire department will respond to these medical emergencies and get there first. And if the ambulances are delayed, that ties up those resources where they can't leave to other calls. So we are 100% in favor of the plan and think it will help resolve some of those issues that are currently happening.
Right. Thank you, Chief. Any other discussion from Cannon Beach? I'll go ahead and, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, Mark Reckman, Fire Chief, Cannon Beach Fire District. I'll echo what Dan said. I'm on the ASA committee. I'm the fire department representative. I 100% support this. This is the right move to help, again, take some of the pressure off of medics and off the fire departments of getting patients to the hospital and getting fire departments back in service.
Thank you, Chief. I see that Commissioner Thompson has her hand raised. Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I very much appreciate the efforts of the EMTs and the ambulance committee and the emergency manager. I'm curious, what metric are you going to use to assure that the quality is maintained? Because, we want to be measuring things, right?
Right. Do you mean specifically to patient care or to the percentages?
Given a choice of either, I always take both. Patient care, of course, is paramount. The percentages are required, but really it's not just the quantity in terms of numbers of patients and timeframes, but it's also the quality of care, because I know you're devoted, but I also know that it supports delivery of services to the extent that we can be self-aware and measure what we're doing.
Yeah, everybody who comes to work for us goes through a pretty extensive orientation period and field training period, and they would never be released to run their own crew if they didn't meet the standard, basically. This isn't something that I can flip a switch and tomorrow I have 3 more ambulances on the road. This is something that Tiffany and I started talking about in March. And of course, it takes time for this process to go on. And so here we are in September, but it'll still take a while to attract, hire, and train the people to do that. But we would not simply put somebody on the road just to have a person in the seat.
Thank you, Tom. Commissioner Banks?
Sorry, may I?
We got a follow-up, Commissioner Thompson?
I do, sorry.
Yes.
Should have put my hand back up. I fully support your professionalism. I support your rootedness in the community. I really appreciate that. I know that no system is perfect. And so if you might give a little thought to ways that the folks on the line in the field tell you that there may be some way to improve service, just looking for both creativity and adaptability in this, as I want to continue to express my confidence in your performance.
Thank you. We actually do have what we call our SOQ committee, which is our Safety, Operations, and Quality Assurance Committee, which is made up of EMTs and paramedics in our service. And they do make suggestions on a monthly basis on ways for us to improve our system. So we do actually listen to them.
You're way ahead of me. Thank you.
Commissioner Banks?
I just wanted to say that I think it's a good time of year to try something new, especially with our tourism season kind of coming to, it never ends, but it's slowing down.
Right.
And then hopefully we can see in this 6 month period of time if it works, right before our next season upticks again.
Right.
So, even though it took you a while to get to this point, I think it's kind of fortuitous, so.
Yes.
And I see that Chief Donaldson, did you have anything you'd like to add?
I have some reservations about this, but I'm willing to give it a try. Napa Fire already offers this level of care with a licensed ambulance. I have concerns that we're going to get this unit out, and we're going to be waiting around for the next ambulance to come. And but I'm sure Tom and I will work that out.
Okay, thank you, Chief Donaldson. Any other comments or questions, either virtually or anyone from the board here? Emergency Manager Brown, would you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, thank you.
Well, we've heard a lot of support for the proposal. How does we want to progress and move this forward?
Chair Quirla, if I might, we have this scheduled for an upcoming board meeting based on what we hear today. So if your board is supportive of that, then it'll be back in front of your board in, I think, 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken.
I think we're hearing general support. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and bring it back. Thank you so much, Tom, and thank you, everybody, for joining us. Now, one item that's not on the agenda, but we wanted to discuss while we have this time, is the Habitat Conservation Plan proposal or proclamation. We have it scheduled for our October 12th meeting. And I think that we've seen the draft proposal that our county manager has crafted. And we also had some additions that Commissioner Toyoka had kind of put together. Maybe we can have a brief discussion about exactly what we want to include in that proclamation.
Chair Quirla, if I might, just as a little background, this proclamation request came, and it's something that a lot of the counties are doing that are CFTLC counties, and not surprisingly, every county's proclamation is going to be a little unique based upon their own concerns. The original draft was really mirrored off of the comments that the board submitted through the NOAA process. And so, as you might recall, that really focused on the economic impact on the county. There's obviously other additions to that proclamation that could come based upon the HCP process or some other concerns. Staff's original focus was on the financial piece. So before the 12th, we just wanted to get some clarity on what your board might like that next version to look like, so that we can get it on the agenda as soon as possible. So.
Okay. Commissioner Banks?
I'll open the discussion. So, having marinated myself in this process for the last year and a half, almost 2 years, I feel like Clatsop County is at a point where we need to take a firm, united front in regards to what is coming down the pipe towards us. When I'm in discussions with the Board of Forestry and with ODS, I'm primarily focused on the fact that they're taking too many acres from us. Mainly because they've attested to that multiple times, that they have taken into account catastrophic 50 to 100-year events in removing additional acres from operation in order for this plan that they've written. And that is unnecessary on the front side because it's supposed to be an iterative process. And so in their own plan and in their reports that they've stated that they've taken an additional 20% away or more. And I say the words or more because there's a lot of intricate measurements in that, but the baseline is an additional 20% to account for like a San Am fire event for us, or a Columbus Day storm event. And I'm constantly pushing for, can we find 5 acres? 5 acres would equal 1 job for 1 year. Can we find 2 jobs for 10 years? So I'm constantly pushing that economic conversation, every meeting. And I feel like, that as a county, with them attesting to the fact that our county is going to lose the most of all of the counties. We are at the top of the pile, basically, for defunding us. And it's been cited repeatedly by multiple people. I just feel like that we need to come into this conversation strong and with a very solid opinion in what is happening to us. And I use an analogy of, so state lands in our county is over 20% of our actual land base. And so that's 1/5. And so we have a different entity that is in charge of 1/5% of our land base. And we don't get a choice or a part of that conversation. And if say this was Multnomah County, and another entity was in charge of 1/5 of their land base, you better believe that there would be a conversation. And so, it's just heartbreaking that we haven't been at the table at all. We haven't been allowed to be at the table. And so, I think as a county, if we can come out, and I know proclamation is it's a proclamation. It may not get us anywhere at all, but at least it's making a statement. And we have yet to make a statement other than myself in these meetings. And I feel like we need to make a really strong, united statement.
Well, I agree with you, and I think we definitely do want to weigh in on this issue. We have until November, it sounds like, until they meet to vote on this. And I think you highlight a few issues that I would like maybe to see. And I think the inequity of how this disproportionately impacts our county versus other counties is something we should highlight. I think that we do support what our local ODF office has done to manage the forest lands and state lands in Clatsop County. So those are a couple things I'd certainly like to highlight. I think it is interesting, as you mentioned, Washington County came up with in opposition or in support of the HCP, excuse me.
Yeah, they don't have any acres.
And I think that is a perfect example of it doesn't impact them and it doesn't bother them. I mean,
Exactly.
that's support of it. But yeah, there are a couple things I think we can make, additions to make our argument stronger. Mr. Tudo.
I think in addition to that, what's the agenda of course right now, when they're crafting the HCP, what is their agenda? Because when you look at it, we've had 35 years under the previous Northwest Forest Plan. And so we have empirical data that shows us that the wildfires are mostly from those regions managed by ODF currently. Or BLM, I'm sorry.
Federal
lands, I'm sorry.
BLM.
So, BLM lands, so most of the wildfires are occurring in those, and what they call it passively managed lands.
Yeah.
So something's remiss there. So, and then number two, the species that they're trying to, protect, actually, we put the wildfires, we're burning them, killing them, and they don't take predation or any other factors involved in looking at those species. We love the owl, but the another predatory species of owl is decimating, the protected species. Well, they're not taking that into account. They're just saying if we create more habitat, the animals will come. Well, we've got 35 years of data that says that's not true. So what is another 70 years of doing the same thing provide us? So, I don't think that they've taken that proper approach and looked at, if they want to say they've taken a scientific approach and this is the way to protect these species, I don't think that's true. And in our old standards, it's the definition of insanity. doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. I think methodology and then what agenda are they really trying to pursue? Because it's not really trying to prevent wildfires or protect species.
Thank you, Commissioner Toga. And before I turn it over to Commissioner Thompson, I think it was you and I that had a discussion too about the private forest accord and what the environmental groups and timber owners decided as, setbacks and other type of buffers that should be included. And this is far and above what was determined for that agreement. So that is something that maybe, I don't know how you incorporate that, but it is something to highlight as well.
Oh, then just to follow up the private forest accord conversation. So the fascinating thing is the signatories on the private forest accord, they accomplished something that has gotten the seal of approval from our governor, that they brought everyone to the table for. They brought private industry, landowners, they brought everybody to the table for that conversation. And they were able to accomplish something, and granted, it's not perfect it's a great negotiation. Let's just put it that way. And I'm kind of, I'll be honest, I'm kind of jealous of the opportunity that our private industry got that we with state lands have not received. So passing it on to.
Yeah, I see Commissioner Thompson. You've been waiting patiently. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, sir. Well, I would echo the concerns that my colleagues have mentioned. I would also point out that playing favorites among subspecies, barred owls versus spotted owls, playing God in that way is very dangerous. I would also point out that of the Washington County Commissioners, only 3 of their commissioners signed that letter. So it is by no means a unanimous vote on their part. And it was a Washington County Commissioner who said with a sneer at a previous meeting, well, you rural timber dependent counties just need to develop other means of economic support for your counties. This from the person that has Nike and Intel. So the fact that, as Commissioner Bangs is fond of pointing out, we have so much of our land in forest, we don't have the resources, we don't have the capacity to do that kind of economic development that would buffer us. And every time land is taken, it's a ratcheting process. More and more is taken, none is given back. And how do we manage to provide care for the people in Clatsop County when the state is removing our capacity to provide that care by impacting our revenue so negatively? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. I do wish that Commissioner Webb was here so we could hear her input on this as well. And I know talking with our county manager about this proclamation, I agreed with the idea of just sticking to the facts, to the economics of how this impacts us. It is a little bit, when you start going into a number of these other issues with regards to ESA and tax, and it can, it can get in the weeds, and it can also open us up to debate about whether we feel the same way about it. Can't debate the numbers. So that is something that we have to kind of keep in mind about how we want to craft this. What will have the most impact for those that are getting in, and what can we garner the most support for?
What I might suggest, Chair Quaylen, members of the board, is I've taken some notes off of your conversation, and what I would suggest is that I will add a little bit to what was drafted before, and then share that with your individual board members and see if it'll go a few steps beyond just the economics potentially, but it's in that area that I don't think would be something new for folks to kind of hear. And if I can get that to you tomorrow morning, if you have a chance to take a look at it, and then we will try to finalize the agenda for the 12th in the next couple days. So if that works for the board.
Yeah, I appreciate, we got a lot of, I think, strong, passionate input on this, and
And what I would also suggest is it's also an opportunity, if the board wanted to write letters, that's an option also. A proclamation is a limited way
yeah,
to make all the points and to
and I
make
think
all the connections.
it might not be a
and so-
bad idea to craft this as a letter as well, so.
Yeah.
And then,
'Cause I think in a letter, your board could have a lot more broad leeway.
Well, I'd love to see that this is sent to the Board of Forestry themselves. They hear from me regularly, and ODF hears from me regularly, but to have other voices, chime in would be nice, and that it is directly sent to them would also be nice. So.
We could do that, thank you.
And I personally, I just want this to have some strength and some teeth behind it, while staying factual and to the point. I don't want to get too far into the weeds because, sometimes if you get too far into the weeds, you may give and I hate calling them the opposition almost, but you may give them material to use that would cause them to say not listen. And I think we just desperately need them to listen.
And Chair Quiller, if I might, I think that just to give a little bit of the county manager perspective, with this is that, the lens that I look at this through certainly acknowledges a lot of the additional comments that have been made by the board. What really concerns me though is the on the road impact, on the street impact that these reductions would mean for our community and the services, and that it touches schools, it touches special districts, certainly touches the county, and a lot of the county, it touches our general fund services, which is fundamentally public safety. And so I just think that is my biggest concern from the county manager seat, and I think there's a lot of reasons why we are here, and I think it's a legitimate question to ask about the variances between the two processes, between the public accord process and the private accord process and this process. But I just want the decision makers to always be reminded about what this means for rural communities and specifically Clatsop County, so.
I'm leaning towards, Chair Quila's, comments of, mainly just because this is a statement from us as a county, and as you reiterated, and all of the negative impacts that it's gonna have on us. We could, add more information to it, but I don't think that the information per se is what is necessary so much as the act of coming together and saying no. And I think that, coming together as a board and saying, no, you're doing this wrong and you need to stop or you need to hear us, I think has more weight than what is actually, I guess, please don't take this the wrong way, but what is written on the piece of paper. I think it's the act itself of us coming together versus the semantics of what is actually on the piece of paper. I think we wrote an amazing letter to NOAA Fisheries that highlighted all of our concerns. And so we also have that in our back pocket. But then, I don't disagree, Commissioner Toyoka, I don't disagree in the issues that you brought forward. It's just, I don't disagree.
Well, if I might, Chair, is that I will get something to you tomorrow morning and just individually, just let me know, what your draft edits might be. But I'll just send it to you each individually so that you and I can have those conversations.
yeah, thank you so much, County Manager. Do we have any other course of action going forward? Okay. Yeah, thanks again. That is the last topic on our work session. We have a 20-minute recess before we start our regular meeting. So go ahead and take a break. All right, we have 6 o'clock. The Board of Commissioners, as the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board, is now meeting in regular session. All rise for the flag salute.
America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk of the Board, can we have the roll call, please?
Chair Quila,
Here?
Vice Chair Thompson,
I'm here.
Commissioner Toyoka,
Here.
Commissioner Banks,
Here.
and Commissioner Webb is absent.
Thank you, Teresa. We had an opportunity to review the agenda. Any questions or comments on the agenda, or do we have a motion?
For the agenda as written.
Second.
Moving second to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. First item is a proclamation, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and with us is Maritza Romero from the Harbor to present on this. Come on up, Maritza. And yes, that'd be great.
Hi, little assistant. So my name is Maritza Romero. I am the Latinx Program Director at the Harbor. And thank you for recognizing Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the month of October. I am going to read a little bit of the section and make it short and sweet just because of my little one. So no one is immune from domestic violence that occurs across all populations, regardless of gender identity, age, race, sexual orientation, or class. Domestic violence is far more prevalent than most people realize. I'm going to read some statistics. I'm also going to add the Latinx statistics. So 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men experience violence for their partners in their lifetime. And this increases for Latinx population is 1 in 3, and as well as the LGBTQ+A community. So I just wanted to recognize that there is a lot of barriers in our systems, and as an organization, not only are we there trying to be as visible as possible and be out there in the community, but also know that this is a community effort, and it's also about ending the cycle of violence with education, prevention, and just putting the word out there that we're here to support survivors of domestic violence. And I appreciate your time, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Romero. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve resolution and order proclaiming October 1st, 2022 through October 31st, 2022 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and authorize the chair to read and then sign the proclamation.
I'd like to second that, please. Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming October 1st through October 31st, 2022 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and authorize the chair to read, then sign the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion. Matter of proclaiming October 1st, 2022 through October 31st, 2022 to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas the first Domestic Violence Month was observed in October 1987, the same year that saw the initiation of the first National Domestic Violence Toll-Free Hotline, and in 1989, Congress designated October as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And whereas domestic violence is a pattern of assaultive and coercive behaviors, including physical, psychological, sexual, and economic abuse, social isolation, and stalking that are used to maintain power and control over a person's intimate partner. And whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's dignity, safety, and basic human rights, and whereas domestic violence is the single largest cause of injury and homicide for women, and whereas children exposed to domestic violence experience terror, isolation, guilt, helplessness, and grief, and have a higher risk of engaging in criminal behavior and substance abuse and becoming victims of crime, and whereas domestic violence impacts the health and well-being of our community, and whereas it is incumbent on every citizen to play a role in preventing and ending domestic violence. Now therefore be it hereby resolved that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim October 1st, 2022 through October 31st, 2022 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month here in Clatsop County, and invites all community members and local agencies to join in the month of observance by speaking out against domestic violence, raising awareness, and supporting survivors. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a great night. Next item is a proclamation for apprenticeship training support programs. It's on page 115 of our agenda, and I'll turn it over to County Manager Don Boone.
Thank you, Chair Coelho, members of the board. Journey-level construction workers are retiring in numbers greater than the number of applicants to replace them, creating shortages of skilled construction workers that are limiting job growth and affecting our regional economy. Apprenticeship programs are an effective means of providing training and experience to individuals seeking to enter or advance in the workforce. Clatsop County will partner with the Oregon State Apprenticeship and Training Council to promote apprenticeship training programs by encouraging contractors and subcontractors to become registered training agents.
Thank you very much, Don. Do we have a motion?
Commissioner Thompson would like to move to approve the resolution and order promoting apprenticeship and training programs and authorize the chair to read, then sign the proclamation.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order promoting apprenticeship training programs and authorize the chair to sign and read the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All
Aye.
those opposed? Okay, motion carries. In the matter of promoting apprenticeship training programs, a highly skilled workforce is essential for enhanced economic growth and continued prosperity for workers in Clatsop County. Journey-level construction workers are retiring in numbers greater than the number of applicants to replace them, creating shortages of skilled construction workers that are limiting job growth and affecting our region's economy. The responsibility to train the next generation of skilled workers rests with both public and private sector employers. Apprenticeship programs are an effective means of providing training and experience to individuals seeking to enter or advance in the workforce, and offering the opportunity to earn family wages and receive excellent benefits while acquiring valuable, marketable skills. Encouraging and promoting participation in apprenticeship programs will provide retraining and job opportunities for community members and will promote a viable workforce in the construction trades and into the future. Actions by the Oregon State Apprenticeship and Training Council have made apprenticeships more widely available in the construction industry. The use of apprentices enrolled in an apprenticeship program approved by the Oregon State Apprenticeship and Training Council ensures proper training and compliance with employment and wage regulations. Clatsop County is committed to promoting the use of apprentices. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved by the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners that the county will promote apprenticeship training programs by encouraging contractors and subcontractors to become registered training agents. Entirety, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. Well, we'll go ahead and we'll sign that. And we'll move on to the next item, which is business from the public. So this is an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda, except for public hearings, or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. Clerk of the board, has any member of the public registered to speak?
Yes.
Okay, please wait until you're called on, then give your name and address for the record, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Anna Moritz.
Anna?
Hi, that's me. Thank you. My name is Anna Moritz. My address is P.O. Box 84 in Cannon Beach, 97110. My comment tonight is related to business agenda item 10. And in this regard, I urge you to vote in favor of vacating county rights of way over the parcels owned by Clatsop County to help protect Crescent Beach. And I'd like to explain why this is so important. As you've probably noticed already in your planning packet, we are talking about parcels of land above a beach known as Crescent Beach, which is a beautiful beach north of Chapman Point that has the rich ecology. Notably, these are the only parcels within the outer boundary of Ecola State Park that are actually not owned by state parks. The fact that these parcels are county land and not state parks land affects not only how the parcels themselves are managed, but also the permitted uses of the beach below the parcels. For instance, camping is prohibited on beaches in front of state parks land, but camping is not prohibited on beaches in front of Clatsop County land. This has created an ongoing problem in this area with both single night, overnight camping, as well as longer term camping. And it's an area with no sanitation, of course, and an area that is very close to a number of sensitive ecological areas and species. Recognizing the differences in protection and the need for uniform management of the area, Clatsop County has begun the process of transferring ownership of the parcels to Oregon State Parks. This is a great move. It makes a lot of sense because then all of the land within Ecola State Park boundaries will be managed uniformly and subject to the same regulations. The only remaining hurdle is that state parks cannot take title to this land while there are easements over it. And this is where you come in tonight. If you vote to vacate the county rights of way, you can allow this land transfer to continue and ensure that Crescent Beach has the best possible protection for years to come. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Moritz. Do we
That's
have-
all we have.
That's all we have, okay. Do we have anyone that has joined us virtually that might like to provide public comment at this time? Okay, I'm not seeing any. We'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the consent calendar. We've had opportunity to review the consent calendar. Do we have any comments, questions on any items of the consent calendar? Okay, do we have a motion?
Oh, one question.
Oh, yes, Commissioner Toyoka.
Planning Commission bylaws. I know they made amendments, we've read them before and all. When they become effective, is that become effective the day of approval or next cycle of the?
That might be one we can defer to our Community Development Director, Gail Henderson.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. The last time that we adopted the Planning Commission bylaws and updated them in June of 2018, they became effective immediately. So. Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Any other comments, questions on items on the consent calendar?
Yes, I move to approve the consent calendar as written.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next is Commissioners' reports. We'll start with Commissioner Thompson.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I am rehabbing still. That's my primary focus right now, but I have found time to pass off the leadership of the AOC District 7 meeting this coming Friday in Vernonia to the Vice Chair, Commissioner Yamamoto from Tillamook County. I will Zoom in. He will be there in Vernonia in person. If there's any way any of you, my colleagues, can attend that meeting of District 7, it's a chance to make good connections with AOC staff and with your colleagues from up and down the coast. I would speak to that. I would also mention that I went to an aid and assist meeting yesterday because there's a continuing conversation about the impact on county law enforcement and county mental health services, behavioral health services for the aid and assist population. So that's an ongoing population. I understand from AOC staff that there is some appetite from Senator Prozansky to modify ballot measure 110. So I'm hopeful we'll get information about that from PAC West if the county manager can see to that. And that's my report this evening, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Toyoka.
Busy week with a lot of different issues from ACP and on, but one thing I will report is that we had another meeting of the Clatsop Regional Housing Task Force, and it's very encouraging because it's bringing together entities from across the county, you know, Seaside, Cannon Beach, Warrenton, Astoria, the county staff, and all these players are all unified in the fact that there is no single solution to housing, especially when you talk about affordable and workforce housing. It's going to have to be a multiple prong approach. and to bring all the players, not only from, governmental agencies, but private developers, private industry has to be there. And that's the only way of everyone working together to find multiple solutions to a kind of multifaceted issue. It's very positive, and I think we're going to have some good results, and I don't think it'll take that long either. It's moving quickly, and I can't imagine, we're like, yes, I hope we can pull this together and pull the proper players together quickly and get some action for the county, not just have meetings.
Fantastic. Thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. We really appreciate you being a part of that task force. Commissioner Banks?
Yeah, I've had a busy couple weeks. The best highlight, I think, was the sixth grade forestry tour. I was able to attend that as a teacher this year, but also be able to help out with organization through Oregon Women in Timber. It was an amazing thing to see again. And they have that property up there at ODF. It has been cleaned up and it looks good. And I am very hopeful to have more tours there in the next ongoing years. And it was just really nice to see kids back after COVID. So it was a lot of fun. The kids learned a lot. I was able to attend a fundraiser for the North Coast Watershed Association at Hampton, out at the tree farm there in Napa. And that was, again, a wonderful gathering and for such a good cause. And so that was a lot of fun to see friends from around the neighborhood, but also from around the county, and to see a number of the ODF employees there also supporting that Watershed Association. It was just a very enjoyable event. On the child care front, I attended a couple evening sessions with our local regional director, Eva Manderson, and just kind of touch base with other providers in our area, but also in the other counties of Tillamook and Columbia County, and just listening to them and the struggles that they're facing. And it was just very, I don't know, you can't fix everything in one meeting, but it was nice to be able to commiserate with each other, just regarding struggles and finding employees and finding, a healthy balance between cost and being able to stay afloat. So it was a good meeting. And then I had a nice update. My Representative Weber and her aides have submitted the legislative idea that I had started working on with them, and it's percolating in the lawyer's office, or the legislative lawyer's office, and so we'll see what they spit out and see if it goes anywhere. So just all good things.
That's great. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Banks. Appreciate your work on that and thinking ahead on how this can be a real tool to attract people to the child care industry. Thanks for your participation on the Child Care Task Force. Dan Gaffney and Eva Manderson are a big part of that task force, and appreciate everybody's work. We're going to have an announcement on some grant awards coming very, very soon. And also one of the big part of this is that SBDC is doing some training for child care providers, giving them some tools to be more efficient, partnering with Wonder School to give them that administrative tool that a lot of them lack, and hopefully they'll come out of this cohort of child care providers with some real education and tools at their disposal that they'll make their child cares even more effective. And we really appreciate all the work that CEDAR and SBDC is doing on behalf of the child care in the county. And one big announcement is that we have offered, and that person has accepted the county council position, and we've come to terms with him. Anthony Pope from Curry County has accepted the position to become the new county council here in Clatsop County. We're excited to have him aboard. I think he's going to be a great addition, and he's excited to get here too. So that's all I have. I'll turn it over to our county manager.
Thank you, Chair Quayla, members of the board. Just to follow up on Chair Quayla's announcement is on the October 12th board meeting, there will be an item for your board to approve the employment agreement with Anthony. And then he intends to start work on October 24th. So he will be here soon. And that's all that I have.
Yeah, that's great. We'll be anxious to have him. We'll move on to the business agenda. We have one item on the business agenda this evening. It's to accept the Roadmaster's report, considering waiving a public hearing and vacating a portion of Pine Street. Vance Swenson, County Surveyor, is here, and I'll let him provide us with the report at this time.
All right, good evening, members of the board, Chair Aquila. I'm Vance Swenson, the County Surveyor. I've got before you, as you said, accepting the Roadmaster's report, consider waiving a public hearing for and approve the vacation of a portion of Pine Street, which is an undeveloped, just a little strip of remnant of street on the beach surrounded by Ecola State Park. I think out of all the vacations I presented to you, this one, I don't want to jinx it, but this one I think is going to be the simplest and easiest. I'm going to forego going through a lot of the details. If you'd like to ask any questions about any of those details, and I'd be happy to go through it if you'd like. With that, I'll...
So, driving down on Onyx, it shows it's in the beach on the...
It sure looks like it's right, like, in the sand. I know you see that aerial photo, but I think it's probably,
Yeah, my GPS app shows it in the...
Right.
I'm like, okay.
It's something that should have been vacated probably a long time ago. Just to clarify, this is just the first step and kind of what was described earlier. So whether there's all sorts of good reasons to just get rid of it and be done.
Any other questions, comments from the commission? Commissioner Banks?
I really feel like I can trust all of those reasons that, I mean, from all intents and purposes, does look like the beach. And yeah,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, can I make a motion?
Do you have any more comments, Commissioner
Well,
Banks?
I was just trying to, I'm without words right now.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Commissioner Thompson?
Well, thank you. Well, this is my district, and as was pointed out, this is a precious place and we'd like to protect it. So if no one has any further questions or comments, sorry, Commissioner Banks, I can't see your face when I'm in this position. If I could make the motion, I'd like to move to approve the resolution and order vacating a portion of Pine Street, a public street in the plat of Seal Rock Beach.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution in order vacating a portion of Pine Street, a public street in the plat of Seal Rock Beach. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carried.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Vance. Well, that is our last item on the agenda. Does anybody have anything for the good of the order this evening?
Well, I have a question. So I'm looking at this picture and it looks like there's lots alongside of this. Like actual housing lots that can't have been sold. So it's just a matter of interest that I'm...
Yeah, I mean, just for academics, this is one of those, back in the late 1800s, there were a lot of these town plats that were recorded, and they did these 50 by 100 foot lots, and it's obvious they were done sight unseen, probably somebody sitting, who knows where, Portland, San Francisco or something, and they drew these, and yeah, there's 50 by 100 foot lots that are literally probably right on the cliffs, and no one knew or cared.
So they have lots like that out in the woods too.
Yeah.
Because way back, somebody was drawing pictures on a map and thought that area would be great.
And in this particular, that Seal Rock Beach, there are a lot, it's a big subdivision, there's quite a bit of Cannon Beach is in that subdivision and are built out and used.
Thank you. I mean, it's just cool. I was just looking at it, so,
It's interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, thanks again, Vance. Any? Yeah, no. A lot of Warrenton is that way too.
Sure.
Hammond. Any other items for the good of the order? Okay. We'll
Go
go,
real estate license, I'll say a piece of,
yeah.
Oceanfront property.
Got some Don's got some Seal Rock Beach